Hello there, and welcome to Sleep Science Lab. I'm so glad you found your way here. Wherever you are right now, tucked beneath a soft blanket, lying in the gentle dark of your room, or simply resting your eyes against the quiet of the night, you are exactly where you need to be. There is nothing left to do tonight, nothing to solve, nothing to carry. The world outside can wait until morning. Right now, all that exists is this moment, this warmth, this breath, slowly leaving your body. Tonight, we are going to travel somewhere ancient and beautiful, somewhere that existed long before cities and clocks, and the soft hum of electricity. We are going deep into the forest, into a world of silver shadows and tall, whispering pines, where the earth is cold and soft underfoot, and the sky above stretches wide and full of cold-breathing stars. We are going to spend the evening with one of nature's most graceful and quietly extraordinary creatures, the grey wolf. Not the wolf of old fears or childhood stories, but the real wolf, the gentle, intelligent, deeply family-oriented animal that has shaped entire ecosystems simply by existing. An animal that howls not out of loneliness, but out of love. An animal whose paws have walked this earth for millions of years, whose amber eyes have watched the moon rise 10,000 times over. Fact by slow fact, story by gentle story. We'll move through 100 soft wonders about these remarkable animals, each one a quiet lantern in the dark, guiding you gently towards sleep. If you find this journey peaceful, please consider leaving a like or subscribing to Sleep Science Lab. It truly helps more tired souls find their way here. Now settle in. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands grow heavy and still. And let's begin this slow and soothing journey together. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of streetlights and the noise of the waking world, a forest breathes slowly in the dark. The pine trees stand tall and patient, their roots deep in cold earth, their branches holding the weight of the night like old, gentle hands. And moving softly through the shadows between those trees, unhurried, certain, and quietly alive, is the grey wolf. Let these 100 gentle truths about this ancient creature carry you, slowly and safely, toward the deepest rest. The grey wolf, Canis lupus, is one of the oldest members of the dog family on this earth, with a lineage stretching back nearly 1 million years. Imagine that for a slow, quiet moment. 1 million years of soft paws pressing into snow, into cool, dark mud, into the gentle carpet of pine needles on ancient forest floors. 1 million years of amber eyes watching seasons slowly turn, watching rivers swell with spring and shrink to silver threads each summer, watching mountains quietly reshape themselves over vast and patient centuries. The wolf walked this earth long before the first human hand drew an animal on a cave wall. Yet when our ancestors did press red ochre to stone, it was often the wolf they chose. There has always been something in us that recognizes something in them, something ancient, something warm, something that feels even now softly and simply like coming home. Grey wolves are found across one of the widest geographic ranges of any land mammal on this earth, from the thick boreal forests of Canada to the open grasslands of Central Asia, from frozen Arctic tundra to the dry, rocky highlands of northern India. Wherever wild, open space and sky exist, the wolf has found a way to belong. They are creatures of extraordinary adaptability, wearing their very geography in their coats. Wolves from warmer regions grow shorter, lighter fur, while Arctic wolves develop dense, cream-white coats so wonderfully thick that cold winds can barely reach the warm skin nestled safely beneath. Picture a white wolf standing still on a wide snowfield, the wind drifting gently through its coat, like a soft breath moving through long grass. Its eyes calm and patient, its whole body perfectly and beautifully shaped by 10,000 generations of quiet, faithful, and deeply unhurried living. The wolf pack is not an army, and not a hierarchy of force and dominance. A wolf pack is, most simply and beautifully, a family. At its heart are two wolves, a bonded pair, often mated for life, and their children. Pups from this year, and sometimes young wolves from the season before, who have not yet wandered off to find their own path through the forest. They move through the trees together, rest together beneath the open sky, share their meals, and keep each other warm through long, cold nights. The older pups gently look after the younger ones, The parents lead with experience and quiet, steady calm. To belong to a wolf pack is to be held softly and always within the warm and breathing circle of those who know you best. Let that gentle image settle into your chest tonight, the feeling of being surrounded always by those who truly love you. Perhaps no sound in all of nature is quite so quietly, deeply beautiful as the howl of a wolf rising into the cold night air. It begins low and soft, a single breath shaped into sound, and then it lifts, curving upward like pale smoke from a small fire on a still winter evening. It moves through the forest with a surprising, tender gentleness, bending around tree trunks, drifting across frozen meadows, rising over ridgelands into the open, star-scattered dark above. Wolves howl to find each other across great distances. They howl to say, "I am here, I am safe, all is well, and the night is good." If you have ever heard a wolf howl beneath a full winter moon and felt something stir quietly in your chest, that is not imagination. That is something ancient in you, recognizing something ancient in them, simply breathing, simply alive beneath the same wide and gentle sky. Look into the eyes of a wolf and you will find something difficult to name but impossible to forget. Most often they are amber, warm and deep, the color of tree resin, or the last soft light of an autumn afternoon, moving slowly through the leaves. But wolf eyes also come in pale gold, in soft gray-green, in the quiet brown of a slow, dark river. What strikes most people who have seen them is not the color, but the quality of attention, a deep, steady, unhurried awareness that feels neither distant nor guarded, but simply present, awake. The wolf watches the world the way a patient elder might watch a fire, with calm understanding, with gentle appreciation for simply being here, alive, in this soft and breathing moment. Let that same quality of quiet presence, unhurried, warm and deeply attentive, settle now, gently and completely, into you. A wolf's nose is one of the most quietly astonishing instruments in the entire natural world. Where a human being carries roughly 5 million scent receptors tucked within the small warm passages of their nose, a wolf carries nearly 300 million soft, exquisitely sensitive receivers, each one tuned to the invisible language that the wind carries across forests, meadows, and the cold open spaces between mountains. A wolf can detect the scent of another animal from nearly 2 kilometers away. It can read a single footprint in the snow and know not just what creature passed, but how long ago, how fast it was moving, and whether it was healthy or tired. The world, for a wolf, is an endlessly rich and layered story written entirely in fragrance, in the warm breath of pine resin, the cold mineral whisper of distant snow, the soft and familiar scent of home drifting gently through the dark. Wolf pups are born in the deep sheltered warmth of a den, a shallow burrow dug into a gentle hillside, or perhaps a quiet hollow beneath the tangled roots of a very old tree. They arrive in spring, when the earth is just beginning to soften, when the first pale green things are slowly and carefully pushing up through the cold soil. A typical litter holds between 4 and 6 pups, each one small enough to cradle in 2 warm hands, each one born with eyes closed against the light. For the first weeks of their lives, the world is simply warmth and darkness, and the soft, steady rhythm of their mother breathing close beside them. Everything they will ever need to become is already there, folded quietly inside them, patient as a seed waiting for the first long, gentle days of spring to call it slowly upward toward the light. The territory of a wolf pack is not a border drawn in aggression, but a home tended with deep and quiet care. A pack's range may span hundreds of square kilometers, forests, valleys, rivers and ridgelands that they have walked and known and loved across many seasons. They mark the edges gently and regularly, leaving small signs in the bark of trees, along trail edges, beside the frozen margins of streams. Within that vast and breathing landscape, they know every hollow, every crossing, every sheltered place where the wind drops away and the snow lies softer. They return again and again to the same high places to rest and look out across the world they belong to. There is something deeply peaceful in the image of a wolf lying still on a high ridge, watching the long golden light of evening move slowly across the valley below, feeling simply and completely at home. Wolves are remarkably intelligent animals, capable of a quality of social reasoning that continues to quietly astonish the scientists who spend their lives observing them. They remember, they plan, they adjust. The pack hunting in winter moves with a kind of fluid, wordless coordination, each wolf reading the others with extraordinary subtlety, shifting roles, adapting to the landscape, responding in real time to what the moment asks of them. But their intelligence is perhaps most beautifully visible not in the hunt, but in the small daily tenderness of pack life, in the way an older wolf will patiently teach a younger one, in the way they greet each other after even a short separation with a warmth and enthusiasm that is, in its own quiet way, entirely recognizable. Intelligence in the wolf is not cold or calculating. It is warm, relational, and deeply, faithfully attentive to those it loves. There is a quality to the way a wolf moves through the world that carries its own kind of gentle lesson. They do not hurry unnecessarily. When traveling across their home territory, wolves maintain a steady, effortless trot, a pace they can hold for hours across snow, rock, and forest floor, covering enormous distances with a kind of calm, unhurried efficiency that seems to cost them almost nothing at all. Their large, softly padded paws spread wide beneath their weight, distributing it evenly, moving quietly over surfaces that would tire almost any other creature. Watch a wolf move through deep snow, and you will see something almost meditative, each step placed with unconscious precision, the body loose and fluid, the breath steady and slow, the eyes calm and forward-facing. There is no wasted effort here, no unnecessary urgency, only the quiet, ancient art of moving through the world exactly as much as the moment requires. When wolves rest, they rest with their whole bodies, completely, deeply, and without reservation. After a long journey across their territory, a pack will find a sheltered place, perhaps a gentle depression in the snow ringed by tall, dark pines, and they will curl together in a soft, breathing heap of warm fur. Each wolf tucks its nose beneath its tail, drawing its own warmth back into itself like a small, living circle. Their breathing slows until it is barely visible, just the faintest rise and fall of silver-gray fur against the white ground, the faintest pale cloud of breath drifting upward into the cold, still air. Let that image come to rest beside you now, a sleeping wolf, completely at ease, completely trusting, completely held by the cold earth and the dark forest and the steady warmth of those breathing softly all around it. Let your own body take permission from that same deep and wordless peace. Wolves communicate with each other through one of the richest and most nuanced silent languages in the animal kingdom, a whole vocabulary written entirely in the body. The position of the tail, raised high or carried low and relaxed, or tucked gently inward, speaks volumes. The angle of the ears, pricked forward with curiosity or laid softly back with affection, carries meaning as clear and immediate as any spoken word. A slow, gentle wag of the tail, a lowering of the head, a brief warm press of one wolf's shoulder against another's. These are not random gestures, they are a living language of belonging, of reassurance, of quiet daily love expressed without sound in the soft and breathing dark of the forest. To watch two wolves greet each other with this language is to understand, somewhere beneath words, that tenderness is not a human invention. It is something far older, far quieter, and far more beautiful than that. The fur of a grey wolf is not simply grey. Stand close enough, in the right kind of soft morning light, and you begin to see the extraordinary complexity hidden within each individual coat. A single wolf may carry within its fur a whole quiet palette, the warm amber of dry autumn grasses, the cool silver of birch bark, the deep charcoal of wet river stones, the pale cream of old snowfields. The outer guard hairs are long and coarse, shedding water and wind with quiet efficiency, while beneath them lies the dense, impossibly soft underfur, a layer so fine and warm that even the coldest winter nights cannot reach through it. In spring, wolves shed this inner coat in great soft drifts that catch on branches and drift slowly across forest floors like warm, weightless snow. Picture that for a moment. A forest floor scattered with wolf softness, glowing gently in the pale green light of early morning. Wolves are deeply devoted parents, both mothers and fathers, and often the older siblings too, sharing in the warm and patient work of raising the young. A wolf father does not simply observe from a distance. He brings food. He stands guard. He plays with the pups with a kind of enthusiastic, tumbling gentleness that is both endearing and quietly moving. Older siblings from the previous year's litter often remain with the family, acting as devoted aunts and uncles, babysitting the new pups while the parents rest, teaching them the early lessons of pack life through long, gentle afternoons of play in the soft grass beside the den. The pups pile on top of them, bite their ears, tumble across their patient bodies without consequence. And the older wolves endure all of it with an open, easy warmth that fills the clearing with a feeling that in human language we can only call joy. There is a moment just before dawn, when the forest is at its most perfectly still, and the sky above the treetops holds the very first, barely visible suggestion of the coming light. A faint softening of the deepest dark, a slow and gentle exhale of the long night. In this moment, wolves are often quietly active, padding along familiar trails, pausing at the edges of meadows, lifting their heads to read the cold air with their extraordinary noses. They exist in this threshold hour, as though they belong to it, especially creatures of neither full night nor full day, but of this soft, sacred in-between. They are perfectly at ease in the grey, unhurried space between darkness and dawn, that long and tender corridor of becoming where the world has not yet committed to the day, and the night still lingers, gently and without urgency, in the deepest shadows between the trees. The howl of a wolf can travel, on a still and quiet night, up to 10 kilometers through the open air. 10 kilometers of cold, dark, breathing forest, and yet the sound arrives at the other end, not thinned or weakened, but full and warm and unmistakably present, like a letter written with great care that arrives completely intact after a very long and gentle journey. Each wolf's howl is unique, as individual as a fingerprint, as recognizable as a familiar voice calling your name softly from across a warm and lamplit room. Pack members know each other's voices the way old friends know a laugh or a footstep, instantly, warmly, and without any need for thought. When a separated wolf hears a familiar howl rising through the dark trees, something in it settles, some deep and quiet anxiety releases, like a breath that has been held too long, finally, and completely let go. Scientists who study wolves in the wild often speak of something they call the quiet hour, that deep stillness of midday when the pack has eaten and rested and the forest holds its warmest, most golden light. During this time, wolves engage in what researchers gently describe as social grooming, lying close beside each other, softly licking each other's faces and ears, resting their heads on one another's warm flanks. It is an act of profound and unhurried tenderness. There is no purpose here beyond simply being together, beyond the warm, uncomplicated pleasure of closeness, of contact, of knowing that the ones you love are right here, breathing softly, real and present and near. Let that image drift into you now, like warm light moving slowly through a window. The simple, ancient, wordless comfort of being close to the ones you love, on a long and peaceful afternoon. The wolf's paws are marvelously engineered for the world they were made to move through, large and wide, with tough yet sensitive pads that can read the texture of the ground beneath them. Ice, mud, stone, soft earth. Each paw is slightly webbed between the toes, which helps the wolf move across deep snow without sinking, distributing its weight the way a pair of soft living snowshoes might. In winter, the fur between a wolf's toes grows thick and dense, insulating those sensitive pads from the freezing ground below. Picture a wolf's paw print pressed into fresh snow, a wide, clear, deeply beautiful impression. 4 neat toe marks arranged around a central pad, the whole shape surrounded by the faint, soft brushwork of leg fur that grazed the snow's surface, a quiet signature, left without intention on the white and patient surface of a winter morning. Wolves have a relationship with the moon that is not myth, but biology. Like many animals whose lives are shaped by the rhythms of night, wolves are sensitive to moonlight in practical and quietly beautiful ways. On bright, full moon nights, the forest floor is washed in silver light, and visibility improves dramatically, making travel and communication easier across long distances. Wolves tend to be more active on these luminous nights, more vocal, more exploratory, more present in the wide open spaces between the trees. The full moon does not make them wild or frantic. It simply opens the night a little wider, like a door swung gently outward to reveal a larger and more beautiful room beyond. And the wolf steps through that door with its characteristic ease, amber eyes bright in the moonlight, breath rising in small soft clouds, moving through a world that is, in this moment, very nearly as bright as a pale and quiet day. Deep within the chest of a resting wolf, a heart beats at a slow and steady rhythm, somewhere between 60 and 80 beats per minute when fully at rest. Strong, unhurried, completely reliable. Imagine placing your hand very gently against the warm side of a sleeping wolf, and feeling that rhythm beneath the dense, soft fur, that deep, patient pulse that has been moving through wolves for 1,000,000 years, that has carried them through deep snow and long summer days, and the quiet watches of 10,000 winter nights. There is something profoundly calming about the beating of any heart in the dark. The knowledge that somewhere, right now, a living creature is breathing and warm and at rest, its heart doing the one quiet work it has always known how to do. Let your own heart take comfort in that rhythm, slow and steady, patient and sure, perfectly, completely enough. In the deep midwinter, when snow lies thick and unbroken across the forest floor, and the cold presses itself against every living thing, with a quiet, patient insistence, wolf packs draw closer together, physically, emotionally, old in every way that warmth can be shared between creatures who love each other. They sleep in tighter clusters, their bodies pressed side by side, each one contributing heat to the whole, each one receiving it in return. The combined warmth of a sleeping wolf pack is something remarkable, a small living sun glowing softly in the deep cold of a winter forest. From above, if you could see them from the sky, they would look like a single breathing shape, rising and falling together, indistinguishable from one another in the darkness, one warm and unified thing resting peacefully on the cold white ground. Let that image warm something in you tonight, like a fire quietly lit in a small and sheltered room. Wolf pups begin to open their eyes at around 2 weeks of age, and the first color those newly opened eyes can perceive is blue. A soft, pale, wandering blue, like the sky on a cold, clear morning just after sunrise. Over the following weeks and months, that color slowly deepens and shifts, moving through gray and green and gold, until it settles into the warm amber that most adult wolves carry through their lives. There is something quietly beautiful about this slow unfolding of color, this gradual, unhurried way of coming into the full experience of the world. Each pup discovering the forest in stages, learning one soft layer of reality at a time, moving from the warm dark of the den into the pale blue of first sight, and then slowly, gently into the full golden warmth of a world seen clearly, completely, and with wide and wondering eyes. The relationship between wolves and ravens is one of the most quietly enchanting partnerships in the entire natural world. These two creatures, one of the earth, one of the sky, have lived alongside each other for so long that researchers believe they may have genuinely co-evolved certain behaviors. Ravens follow wolf packs through winter forests, alerting them with calls to the presence of prey, and then sharing in the meal once the wolves have done their work. But beyond this practical arrangement, something stranger and more beautiful seems to exist between them. Ravens have been observed playing with wolf pups, swooping low over their heads, pulling their tails with gentle mischief, engaging in what can only be described as pure, exuberant, cross-species play. Two ancient creatures, utterly different in form, finding in each other a kind of companionship that neither science nor poetry has yet fully explained. And perhaps that is exactly as it should be. When a wolf drinks from a stream, it does so with a complete and unhurried attention that is its own kind of meditation. It approaches the water carefully, stepping to the edge with soft deliberateness, lowering its head until its nose is just above the surface. For a moment it simply pauses there, reading the water's scent, feeling the cool air that rises from it, watching the current move in slow, transparent ribbons over pale stones. Then it drinks, long, slow, steady draws of cold, clear water, each one a small and perfect act of nourishment. Picture a wolf at the edge of a forest stream on a still winter morning. The water barely moving, the stones beneath it smooth and grey and beautiful. The wolf's reflection rippling softly in the surface, and feel, in the quietness of that image, the deep and wordless satisfaction of taking exactly what you need. Slowly, gratefully, and with complete and gentle presence. The grey wolf is what ecologists call a keystone species, a creature whose presence shapes and sustains an entire living world around it. The way a single stone at the top of an arch holds the whole graceful structure together. Where wolves live, forests grow differently, rivers run in different patterns. Birds and beavers and bears and wildflowers all shift and flourish in response to the wolf's quiet presence in the landscape. This was demonstrated most beautifully in Yellowstone National Park, where the return of wolves in 1995 triggered what scientists came to call a trophic cascade, a slow rippling transformation of the entire ecosystem, spreading outward from the wolf like gentle circles on the surface of a still, deep pond. The wolf did not force this change. It simply returned and lived and was itself and the world around it. Remembering something ancient and essential, slowly began to heal. In Yellowstone, after the wolves returned, the elk herds, which had grown large and unhurried in the wolves' long absence, began to move differently. They no longer lingered in the open valleys and along the riverbanks, grazing the same ground down to bare earth, season after season. They moved more, rested less in any single place, and in doing so, they allowed the riverbanks to rest. Willows and aspens and cottonwoods grew back along the water's edge, slowly, gently, one small green leaf at a time. Beavers returned to build their patient dams in the new growth. The dams slowed the rivers, creating quiet pools that sheltered fish and amphibians and insects and waterfowl. All of this, every beaver, every willow, every trout, moving silently through clear, cold water, called back into being simply because a wolf stepped quietly through a forest gate and came home. One presence, one return. An entire world, softly, beautifully restored. Wolves are extraordinarily loyal animals to their partners, to their pack, to the territories they have made their home. A mated pair of wolves will often remain together for the duration of their lives, traveling the same trails through every season, raising litter after litter of pups in the same sheltered hollows, learning each other across years with a depth and patience that is quietly remarkable. When one wolf in a bonded pair is lost, the surviving wolf will sometimes search for days, returning to familiar places, calling into the empty forest with a howl that carries something unmistakably tender and sad and hopeful all at once. Their loyalty is not a strategy or a calculation. It is simply the natural expression of a creature for whom love, once given, does not know how to be taken back. Let that truth rest with you gently tonight, like a warm hand placed softly over the heart. There are wolves in this world whose coats are almost entirely white. The Arctic wolves of Canada's far northern islands, where the land is open and vast, and the winter lasts for months of total darkness. These pale wolves move through a landscape of extraordinary spare beauty, across frozen tundra, under skies that shift from deep violet to burning green with the slow pulse of the aurora borealis, across snowfields so wide and still they seem to belong to another world entirely. Arctic wolves have evolved slightly shorter ears and muzzles than their southern cousins. Small, elegant adaptations that reduce heat loss in the extreme cold. They are quieter, often, than forest wolves. Their world is so open that sound carries vast distances without the softening buffer of trees. They move through that vast white silence like slow, warm brushstrokes on a canvas of extraordinary, endless, breathtaking pale. The wolf's sense of hearing is tuned to frequencies far beyond the reach of human ears, capable of detecting sounds from nearly 10 kilometers away across open terrain, and of distinguishing the calls of individual pack members from the complex, layered audio landscape of a living forest. In a forest full of wind and birdsong and the soft percussion of branches and leaves, a wolf can isolate a single familiar howl the way you might hear your own name, spoken softly in a crowded and noisy room. Instantly, clearly, and with a warm and immediate recognition that bypasses thought entirely. Their ears move independently of each other, rotating like small, soft satellite dishes, each one gathering and triangulating sound from a different direction simultaneously. Right now, as you lie still in the quiet dark, notice the sounds around you, distant, gentle, soft, and imagine hearing each one with that same extraordinary, unhurried, and deeply attentive care. Play is not a luxury for wolf pups. It is the serious, joyful, irreplaceable work of becoming. Through the long, warm afternoons of summer, pups tumble and chase and wrestle and ambush each other through the tall grass near the den. learning through every laughing collision the language of their own bodies, the boundaries of others, the delicate grammar of social life within the pack. They stalk beetles through the clover with the same focused intensity they will one day bring to the hunt. They carry feathers and bones and pieces of bark with tremendous, hilarious solemnity. The adults watch from nearby with a relaxed and gentle attention, occasionally joining in, occasionally redirecting, always present. Play for a wolf is how joy and competence and belonging are all learned simultaneously, in the same golden afternoon, through the same tumbling, laughing, completely unself-conscious act of simply being young and alive and wonderfully, entirely free. The grey wolf has been a companion to human imagination for as long as human imagination has existed. In the cave paintings of ancient Europe, wolf figures appear alongside the aurochs and the mammoth, drawn with a care and attention that speaks of long, close observation, of genuine fascination, of something approaching reverence. In the traditions of many indigenous peoples across North America, the wolf is a teacher, a figure associated with loyalty, with deep family bonds, with the wisdom of moving through the world with both strength and gentleness held in careful balance. The Pawnee people called the wolf the greatest of all scouts. The Ojibwe speak of the wolf as a brother, a relative who walks a parallel path through the same vast and breathing world. These are not simply stories, they are the accumulated understanding of people who lived alongside wolves for thousands of years and paid very close and loving attention. When a wolf pack encounters a new scent, something unfamiliar drifting through the trees on the slow current of evening air, the whole group pauses together in a moment of collective, unhurried attention. Ears swivel forward, noses lift, eyes scan the middle distance with a calm, focused curiosity that contains no panic, no urgency, only interest, only the quiet pleasure of a new piece of information arriving into a mind perfectly shaped to receive it. Then, as swiftly and silently as they paused, they move on, filing back into motion one by one, padding forward through the forest with the same steady ease as before. The world is full of information, their bodies seem to say, and all of it is interesting, and none of it needs to be feared. There is deep comfort in that philosophy, in the idea of meeting the unknown, not with anxiety, but with simple, open, and completely unhurried curiosity. The bones of a wolf are dense and strong, built for a life of long distances and patient endurance rather than explosive, short-duration speed. A wolf's legs are long relative to its body, giving each stride a reach and efficiency that allows it to cover ground with a beautiful rolling ease. Its spine is extraordinarily flexible, coiling and releasing with each bounding step, like a long, supple spring, storing and returning energy with a quiet mechanical elegance that engineers and biomechanists have studied with genuine admiration. A wolf in full, easy trot is one of the most quietly beautiful moving things in the natural world. Not dramatic or showy, but deeply functionally perfect, every bone and tendon and muscle doing exactly what it was shaped over 1,000,000 years to do, with a grace so complete and natural that it looks from the outside like almost no effort at all. Each wolf pack develops what researchers gently describe as a culture, a set of learned behaviors, preferences, and habits that are particular to that group and passed down through generations of patient, daily observation and imitation. One pack may consistently use a particular river crossing that another pack, ranging over adjacent territory, never seems to discover. One pack may have developed a specific way of approaching certain terrain, a preference for particular resting sites, a unique pattern of vocalization used in greeting. These cultural traditions accumulate quietly over years and decades, giving each pack a distinct and living identity that is more than just genetics. It is memory, it is history, it is the slow, beautiful sediment of everything the pack has learned together, passed forward with care from each generation to the next, like a warm story told softly in the dark. There is a particular quality of silence that settles over a forest when a wolf pack is resting nearby, a silence that is not empty but full. The small birds grow still. The deer pause at the forest's edge, reading the air. The whole ecosystem holds a kind of soft collective breath, not in fear, but in something closer to attentiveness, to the particular alertness of a world that knows a significant presence is near. And at the center of that silence, The wolves rest, unbothered, breathing slowly, their warm bodies rising and falling against the cold ground, like the slow, patient tide against a quiet shore. They are the still point around which the rest of the living world orients itself, not through force or noise, but through the quiet, undeniable gravity of simply being what they are, fully and completely in this one soft and breathing moment. A wolf's tail is one of its most expressive and beautiful features. A long, full, gently curved plume of dense fur that functions as both a communication tool and a source of warmth. When a wolf sleeps curled in the snow, its tail wraps forward over its nose and paws like a soft, natural blanket, trapping warm air close to the most vulnerable and heat-sensitive parts of its body. When it runs, the tail streams out behind it like a slow grey flag, balanced, elegant, reading the air. When it greets a beloved packmate, the tail moves in long, sweeping arcs of pure, uncomplicated happiness. Watch a wolf's tail and you will always know the truth of what it feels. It is perhaps the most honest part of an already deeply honest animal. A slow, warm wave of fur in the dark forest air, speaking its simple and beautiful language without any reservation at all. In the high summer, when the forest is thick and green and the long northern days seem to last forever, wolf pups venture further and further from the den with each passing week, each expedition a little longer, a little more confident, a little more full of wonder. They discover streams for the first time and leap back from the cold water in startled, delighted surprise. They find their first beetle, their first fallen feather, their first patch of wild strawberries glowing red in a sunlit clearing. The world unfolds before them in a series of gentle revelations, each new thing a small, bright gift, received with the open, unself-conscious joy of a creature for whom everything is still new and everything is still extraordinary. Remember, for a slow and quiet moment, what it felt like to discover the world for the first time, that pure, uncomplicated, completely open astonishment at simply being alive in such an endlessly beautiful place. Wolves have a remarkable ability to regulate their own body temperature across a wide range of environmental conditions. From the deep cold of an Arctic winter, where temperatures may fall to -40 degrees, to the warm summers of more temperate regions. Their double-layered coat functions as an extraordinarily sophisticated insulation system, adjustable across seasons as the thick winter undercoat is shed in spring and grows back in autumn. In warm weather, wolves pant to release heat, their long tongues hanging loose, moving air rapidly across the wet surfaces inside their mouths, cooling the blood that passes close to those surfaces before it returns to the body's core. In cold weather, they conserve heat with a quiet efficiency that requires no conscious effort, their bodies simply knowing, as they have always known, exactly what this moment requires and exactly how to provide it with calm, unhurried, biological grace. Among the many sounds that wolves produce, and there are many, far more than most people realize, perhaps the most intimate is the soft whimper they use between close family members in quiet, private moments. It is not a sound of distress, but of closeness. A low, barely audible murmur exchanged between a mother and her pups as they nurse in the warm dark of the den, or between bonded mates resting side by side in the deep afternoon stillness. It is, in its own way, the wolf equivalent of a whispered word in the dark, the kind of sound that only exists between those who are completely at ease with each other, who have set down every guard and every performance and are simply present, simply themselves, old in the warm and uncomplicated shelter of each other's company. There is no sound more peaceful in all the long catalogue of the natural world than that. Scientists have discovered that wolves, like humans, experience something measurably similar to what we call stress when separated from their pack for extended periods. Elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, reduced appetite, hold a restless, searching quality to their movements that only resolves when they are reunited with familiar companions. And when that reunion comes, the physiological response is equally clear, and equally moving stress hormones drop, heart rate slows, and the wolf settles back into the calm, easy rhythm of a body that feels safe and held and home. We are not so different in this from the wolf. We too are deeply social creatures, shaped by the same ancient forces, carrying in our bodies the same fundamental need for warmth and belonging, and the simple, irreplaceable comfort of those we love, breathing softly somewhere nearby. Let that comfort right now be enough. Let it be more than enough. let it be everything. The grey wolf's scientific name, Canis lupus, carries within it the quiet weight of centuries of human observation and naming. Canis, from the Latin for dog, acknowledging the deep and ancient kinship between wolves and the domestic companions who share our homes and our lives today. Lupus, the Latin word for wolf, which found its way into languages and stories and star charts across the ancient world. The constellation Lupus has been traced in the southern sky since the time of the earliest Greek astronomers, who saw in that loose scatter of stars the shape of a wolf moving through the heavens with the same quiet, purposeful grace it moves through the forests below. Look up on a clear night, far from city lights, and somewhere in the vast and patient dark above you, a wolf made entirely of starlight is walking slowly, faithfully, and forever across the sky. The wolf's stomach is capable of holding up to 9 kilograms of food in a single meal, a biological adaptation for a life in which large meals may be separated by long periods of fasting, and in which every opportunity to nourish the body must be taken fully and gratefully. After a large meal, wolves enter a state of deep, satisfied rest that researchers sometimes call a food coma, lying sprawled and completely limp on the ground, bellies round and warm, legs stretched out in every direction with an absolute and total abandonment of muscular tension that is almost comical in its completeness. There is something wonderfully recognizable in this image, the deep, boneless, completely surrendered relaxation of a body that has been thoroughly and completely nourished. That same quality of release is available to you right now. Let your body be as heavy and as soft and as thoroughly, completely at rest as a wolf on a warm afternoon, full and safe and utterly, deeply content. In the language of wolf pack dynamics, there is a role that researchers sometimes call the omega, the wolf who occupies the most socially relaxed position within the group, who diffuses tension through play and gentle clowning, who absorbs the group's stress with a kind of cheerful, unbothered ease. The omega is not a victim of its position. It is, in many ways, the pack's emotional anchor, the one whose soft goofiness can dissolve conflict before it solidifies, whose willingness to be tumbled and chased and lightly teased holds the social fabric of the group together with surprising effectiveness. Every family, every community has its equivalent of the omega wolf, the one whose lightness and ease creates space for everyone else to breathe a little more freely. There is a profound and quiet dignity in that role, in knowing that sometimes the most important thing you can offer is simply your own warm, uncomplicated, and deeply generous ease. The tracks that wolves leave in snow or soft mud are among the most distinctively beautiful impressions in the natural world, large, clear, and deeply expressive of the animal's particular way of moving through its landscape. A wolf's trail in deep snow is remarkably straight. Wolves place their hind feet almost precisely in the prints left by their front feet, a technique called direct registering that minimizes energy expenditure and leaves a clean, single-file line of print stretching away through the white forest like a sentence written in a language of pure, patient movement. To follow such a trail with your eyes, watching it curve gently around a tree, descend softly into a hollow, disappear over a rise, is to feel in the most immediate and physical way possible the presence of a living creature who passed this way not long ago, quietly and purposefully, going somewhere that mattered, beneath the same wide and breathing sky. Wolves are crepuscular as well as nocturnal, meaning they are most active during the soft, liminal hours of dusk and dawn. Those threshold times when the light is neither fully day nor fully night, but something more tender and ambiguous and beautiful than either. In these hours, the forest transforms. Colors shift from the sharp clarity of midday into something richer and more muted, the greens deepening toward blue, the shadows lengthening into long, warm pools of amber and gold. The air changes too, growing cooler and more fragrant, as the earth releases the warmth it has stored all day. And through this transformed and quietly enchanted landscape, the wolves move with an ease and a sense of rightness that speaks of a creature perfectly matched to its moment, not fighting the world or straining against it, but flowing through it like water finding its own level, like breath moving in and out with perfect natural and completely effortless grace. There is a practice among wolf researchers called the Howl survey, a method of locating and counting wolf packs across vast wilderness areas by venturing out into the forest at dusk, standing very still in a quiet clearing, and sending a long, carefully shaped howl out into the darkening trees. And then waiting. The waiting is the part researchers speak of most, that profound, attentive stillness. Standing alone in the deepening dark, the forest breathing all around, the first stars appearing one by one in the pale sky above the treetops. And then sometimes, after a minute or two of that extraordinary quiet, an answer comes drifting back through the trees, faint at first, then swelling, then fading, a real wolf's voice, responding from somewhere out in the vast and living dark. Researchers who have experienced this moment describe it uniformly as one of the most quietly moving experiences of their lives. A conversation across species, across centuries, across the soft and breathing dark. Wolf pups are born completely dependent, blind, deaf, and unable to regulate their own body temperature, relying entirely on their mother's warmth and presence for every moment of those first fragile weeks of life. Yet within 2 months, these same small creatures are tumbling confidently through the meadow grass outside the den, wrestling with siblings twice their size, investigating the world with an energy and curiosity and bold delight that seems almost impossible given how recently they arrived into it. This transformation from complete vulnerability to vibrant, confident, joyful aliveness happens so gradually and so naturally that it is easy to miss the miracle of it. But it is a miracle. Every small creature that has ever opened its eyes to the world for the first time and found it good, found it safe and warm and full of extraordinary things worth exploring, is a miracle. Quiet, ordinary, and absolutely without exception, completely extraordinary. The relationship between a wolf and water is one of easy familiarity and gentle pleasure. Wolves drink frequently and deliberately, choosing clean, cold, running water when it is available, streams and rivers whose currents keep the surface clear and the water cold and bright. In summer, they will wade into shallow water to cool themselves, standing in the current with their legs submerged and their eyes half closed in what can only be described as simple, uncomplicated pleasure. Wolf pups encounter water with an initial charming wariness that quickly dissolves into enthusiasm. Within days of their first cautious approach to a stream, they are splashing and leaping and chasing each other through the shallows with exuberant whole-body joy. Picture that scene now, a shallow forest stream in golden summer light. Wolf pups leaping through the silver water, droplets catching the light like scattered stars, the sound of their splashing carrying softly through the warm and peaceful air. The alpha pair of a wolf pack, the bonded, experienced parents at the center of the family group, led not through force or intimidation, but through something much quieter and more durable, through the accumulated trust of those who have been led well, through the confidence that comes from experience, and through a quality of calm, clear-headed decisiveness that the rest of the pack can orient themselves around in moments of uncertainty. True wolf leadership, as researchers have come to understand it, looks nothing like the old myth of the dominant wolf constantly asserting its status through aggression. It looks, instead, remarkably like good parenting, like the patient, consistent, deeply attentive care of someone who knows where they are going, who watches over those in their charge with genuine love, and who leads most effectively simply by remaining in all circumstances steady, warm, and reliably completely present. We have now drifted quietly through 50 gentle truths about the grey wolf, 50 soft lights carried through the dark forest of this evening together, and perhaps you can feel already how the weight of the day has been slowly, almost imperceptibly releasing itself from your body, how your shoulders have found the pillow more completely, how your breath has grown a little longer and a little quieter, how the space behind your eyes has softened into something warm and dark and restful. We are halfway through our journey together, and the forest around us is as still and as beautiful as it has ever been. The pines standing patient in the dark, the stars turning their slow, ancient wheel overhead, and somewhere nearby, just beyond the circle of your hearing, the quiet sound of wolves breathing softly in the deep and peaceful night. Rest here, gently, for just a moment. Then let us continue slowly, further into the beautiful dark. The grey wolf's closest living relative is not the coyote or the fox, but the domestic dog, every dog that has ever curled at the foot of a human bed, every dog that has ever rested its warm chin on a human knee, every dog that has ever waited patiently by a door for the sound of a familiar footstep returning home. All of them carry, within their warm and faithful bodies, the ancient blueprint of the wolf. The branching point between wolves and domestic dogs occurred somewhere between 15 and 40,000 years ago, a moment lost to time, when some group of wolves began moving closer to human fires, drawn by warmth or food or simple curiosity, and found there something unexpected and enduring. What began in the cold and uncertain dark of a prehistoric night became, across thousands of generations of patient, mutual choosing, one of the most beautiful and durable relationships in the entire long history of life on this earth. There are moments in the life of a wolf pack that researchers describe as celebrations, though they are careful with that word, knowing how much it claims. After a successful hunt, or at the reunion of separated pack members, or sometimes for no apparent reason at all during a soft summer evening, the wolves will engage in what can only be called communal joy. They leap on each other. They run in wide, exuberant circles through the meadow grass. They vocalize together in a kind of spontaneous, overlapping chorus that is neither a howl nor a bark, but something between a tumbling, joyful cascade of sound that rises into the evening air and dissipates like laughter. Then, as suddenly as it began, it ends. The wolves settle back into their comfortable stillness, sides heaving gently, tongues lolling, eyes soft and bright. The meadow returns to its quiet, and the world is somehow just slightly more beautiful than it was before. A wolf navigates its territory with a spatial memory of extraordinary precision and depth. It carries within its mind a detailed, living map of hundreds of square kilometers. Every trail and crossing, every ridge and hollow, every reliable water source, every place where prey has been found and where shelter can be taken when the weather turns. This mental map is not static but constantly updated, new information arriving through scent and sound and direct observation, integrating seamlessly into the existing landscape of knowledge the way new stars discovered one by one slowly fill in the familiar shape of a constellation. To move through the world with that quality of intimate embodied knowledge, to know your landscape the way a wolf knows its home range, is a form of belonging so deep and so complete that it becomes indistinguishable from love. The wolf does not merely live in its territory, it knows it, remembers it, and quietly, faithfully treasures it. In the long catalogue of wolf sounds, one of the most fascinating and least often discussed is the chorus howl, the moment when an entire pack raises its voices together in a single, layered, harmonically rich outpouring of sound that researchers believe may serve as a kind of acoustic territory declaration, broadcasting the pack's presence and cohesion to any other wolves within hearing range. What is remarkable about the chorus howl is that pack members appear to deliberately choose different pitches, each wolf finding its own note, creating a dense, overlapping harmony that makes the group sound larger and more complex than it actually is. An acoustic illusion crafted entirely by instinct that fills the forest with what sounds like a choir of dozens when in truth it may be only 4 or 5 wolves standing close together in the dark, voices raised and intertwining, making something together that none of them could make alone. The winter coat of a grey wolf contains 2 distinct layers that work together with a quiet, elegant efficiency to keep the animal warm in conditions that would quickly overwhelm almost any other creature. The outer layer consists of long, coarse guard hairs, stiff enough to shed snow and rain, loosely arranged enough to allow air to circulate freely between them. Beneath this lies the undercoat, a dense, fine, impossibly soft layer of fibers that trap a thin layer of warm air directly against the wolf's skin, creating a personal microclimate as warm and stable as a well-made bed on a cold winter night. This undercoat is so effective as an insulator that snow falling on a sleeping wolf does not melt. The wolf's body heat simply cannot penetrate outward through it. A wolf sleeping in a snowstorm may be completely blanketed in white, invisible from even a short distance, perfectly warm and perfectly at rest, beneath its own extraordinary living shelter. There is a phenomenon that wildlife researchers call the wolf gaze, a moment that occurs sometimes during close observation when a wolf turns and looks directly at the human watching it, holding that gaze for several long, unhurried seconds before looking away again. Those who have experienced it describe the sensation in remarkably consistent terms. A feeling of being genuinely seen, of being assessed with a calm and intelligent attention that carries neither aggression nor fear, but something closer to simple mutual acknowledgement. Two creatures, shaped by entirely different histories, meeting briefly and honestly across the space between them. The wolf does not look through you or past you. It looks at you fully, quietly, and with a directness that feels in some deep and difficult to articulate way, like being in the presence of something that understands far more about you than you might expect, and finds you in the end simply and completely interesting. Wolves have been documented traveling distances of up to 100 kilometers in a single day, when the terrain is open and the conditions are right, a feat of quiet endurance that speaks to the extraordinary efficiency of their bodies and the depth of their motivation when moving towards something that matters. Young wolves leaving their birth pack to find a mate and establish their own territory. A journey called dispersal may travel hundreds of kilometers over the course of weeks or months, moving through landscapes entirely unknown to them, or guided by an internal compass and an instinctive understanding of how to read the land. These lone, traveling wolves are among the most poignant figures in the natural world. Young, alone, and moving with a faithful, unhurried determination through a vast and unfamiliar world, carrying within them everything they need, moving steadily toward a home they have not yet found but somehow, already, deeply know. The social bonds within a wolf pack are maintained through a constant low-level exchange of small physical gestures. A brush of one wolf's flank against another's as they pass, a brief and gentle lick applied to a companion's ear, the quiet, almost unconscious act of choosing to rest within touching distance of a beloved packmate rather than anywhere else in the wide available world. These small gestures accumulate over days and seasons and years into something immense and invisible. A web of trust and familiarity and deep mutual knowledge that holds the pack together through hardship and abundance alike. Researchers who spend long periods observing wolf packs sometimes describe a feeling of watching a single organism moving through the world in multiple bodies. So fluid and so continuous is the communication between members. So seamlessly do they respond to each other's subtlest signals. So completely are they, in every meaningful sense, always and entirely together. The moon has always been the wolf's most faithful companion in the sky, not because wolves are controlled by the lunar cycle, as old stories would have it, but because moonlight is, for a creature of the night, simply a practical and beautiful gift. On the brightest nights of the full moon, a wolf's amber eyes catch and hold the light with a soft, luminous glow, a phenomenon caused by a reflective layer behind the retina called the tapetum lucidum, which doubles the amount of light available to the eye in low-light conditions. This same adaptation is what causes a wolf's eyes to shine when caught in a beam of light. Those 2 points of warm amber glow appearing suddenly in the darkness like small, steady flames. Imagine that now. A dark forest, a full moon riding high above the pines, and somewhere among the shadows, 2 soft and amber lights, watching the night with calm and patient wonder. As we move quietly through the second half of our journey together, perhaps you have begun to feel the particular quality of peace that comes from spending a long, unhurried time in the company of something truly wild and truly gentle. There is something that happens to the human nervous system when it rests, for a sustained period, in the imagined presence of the natural world, something measurable and real and deeply restorative. The breath slows, the muscles soften. The constant restless processing of the waking mind begins to release its grip, loosening like fingers slowly uncurling from something they have been holding too tightly for too long. The forest around us is very still now. The wolves are resting nearby, their warm sides rising and falling in the deep and patient dark. And you are here, soft and quiet, and growing heavier with every slow, complete breath, drifting gently, beautifully, down into the deep and welcoming dark of sleep. The grey wolf's jaw is one of the most powerful in the animal kingdom, capable of exerting a pressure of nearly 1,500 pounds per square inch, more than twice the bite force of a large domestic dog. Yet this same jaw, capable of such extraordinary strength, is also the instrument of the most extraordinary tenderness. A wolf mother carries her newborn pups in that same jaw, lifting them with a gentleness so complete and so precise that not a single hair on their small, warm bodies is disturbed. She moves them from place to place within the den, repositioning them in the warmest spots, adjusting them with a care so exquisitely calibrated that it seems almost impossible from a mouth capable of such power. True strength, The wolf quietly teaches us is not measured by its greatest force, but by its finest and most loving restraint, by the capacity to hold what is fragile without breaking it, completely and always. Wolves are among the few wild animals that have been observed engaging in what biologists carefully call altruistic behavior, acts that benefit another member of the pack at a cost to the individual performing them. An older or injured wolf who can no longer hunt will be fed by the pack, other members returning from a successful hunt and regurgitating food for the one who waited behind. This is not an occasional or reluctant accommodation. It is a consistent, reliable feature of pack life. The straightforward, unsentimental expression of a social contract that says, simply, you are one of us, and one of us does not go without. No wolf is left to face the cold alone. No wolf is considered dispensable. Every member of the family is worth the cost of caring for as long as caring is possible. In a world that often forgets this truth, the wolf remembers it faithfully and lives it every single day. The landscape of a wolf's dream. If wolves dream, and the evidence strongly suggests they do, would be a place of extraordinary sensory richness. During REM sleep, the phase associated with dreaming in mammals, wolves show the same characteristic rapid eye movements, the same small twitches of the paws and muzzle, the same faint vocalizations that we recognize in dreaming dogs. Their legs move in slow, gentle running motions. Their nostrils flicker. Sometimes a soft, barely audible whimper escapes into the warm air of the sleeping den. What do they dream of? Perhaps the long trails through deep snow, the cold air full of information, the warm sides of packmates pressing close on a winter night. Perhaps the pups dream of meadows and beetles and the taste of their first cold stream. Whatever the content, the dreaming wolf is a deeply beautiful thing, a creature whose inner life continues, rich and vivid and full, long after the eyes have quietly, peacefully closed. There are places in this world, remote, vast, and extraordinarily beautiful, where the sound of wolves is still a regular and natural part of the night's acoustic landscape. The wilderness of Yellowstone, the boreal forests of northern Canada, the mountains of central Poland, the river valleys of northern Italy, where wolves have quietly, gradually returned after a century of absence, reclaiming old territories with a patient, unhurried determination. In these places, the people who live nearby speak of the wolves' return in ways that go beyond the purely scientific, as a restoration of something essential, something whose absence had left the landscape feeling subtly incomplete, like a piece of music missing its deepest note. The return of the wolf's howl to a landscape that had long been without it is described, again and again, not just as an ecological event, but as something closer to a homecoming, ancient, right, and quietly, deeply moving. A wolf at rest is one of the most perfectly composed images in the natural world. Lying on its side in a soft patch of sun-warmed ground, legs loosely extended, tail curved gently around its hindquarters. The wolf achieves a quality of total physical release that is almost architectural in its completeness. Every muscle at its resting length, every joint at its neutral angle, the whole body organized around the simple governing principle of maximum ease. The chest rises and falls in long, slow arcs. The eyes, if open at all, are soft and unfocused, seeing the middle distance with a drowsy, uncritical benevolence that takes in the world without grasping at any of it. The ears rotate occasionally, gathering the forest's quiet sounds, then relax again. There is nothing in this image that is not peaceful, nothing that is not an invitation. Let your own body take the shape of that same, complete and patient, deeply beautiful rest. The grey wolf has a heart that is proportionally larger than that of most similarly sized animals, a biological fact that feels in its own quiet way entirely appropriate. That large, strong heart pumps blood through a body designed for endurance, for long distances, for the patient, sustained effort of a creature that moves through its world, not in bursts of frantic speed, but in the steady, hour-after-hour rhythm of a being that knows exactly where it is going and is in absolutely no hurry to arrive before the right moment. A large heart, beating slowly and powerfully in the deep chest of a resting wolf, moving warm blood through strong limbs, through keen senses, through a brain of remarkable complexity and social intelligence. That heart has been beating in wolves for 1,000,000 years. And tonight, somewhere out in the dark and breathing forest, It is beating still, slow and sure, and warm and completely faithfully alive. Wolf pups learn the geography of their home territory gradually and joyfully, through increasingly long and wide-ranging explorations conducted always within the safe orbit of older pack members. By their first autumn, they have walked most of the trails their parents know, have crossed the streams and climbed the ridges and rested in the sheltered hollows that the pack has used for years. The landscape enters them through their paws and their noses and their eyes, not as an abstraction, but as a living, breathing, intimately known reality. Every part of it associated with a smell, a texture, a temperature, a memory. Home for a wolf is not a concept. It is a sensory experience of extraordinary depth and richness. Something carried in the body, remembered in the muscles, available always and immediately as a source of calm, of orientation, of the deep and wordless comfort of knowing, in every cell, exactly and completely where you are. The color of a gray wolf's coat is not fixed at birth, but continues to develop and shift across the animal's lifetime. Wolf pups are often born darker than they will eventually become, deep charcoal or rich brown, gradually lightening over their first year as the adult coat comes in. As wolves age further, they may develop more silver and white in their fur, particularly around the muzzle and along the spine, a slow frosting of experience, worn with the same easy dignity that the finest silver carries in any context. An old wolf, grey-muzzled and deep-eyed, moving through a winter forest, with the unhurried confidence of a creature that has seen many seasons and carries them all lightly, is one of the most quietly beautiful things in the natural world. There is a kind of grace in age, in the accumulated silver of a life lived fully and well, that has nothing to do with speed or strength, and everything to do with depth, with wisdom, and with a beauty that only time can make. Researchers studying wolfpack dynamics have identified a behavior they call the rally, a moment before a significant shared activity, such as a long journey or a hunt, when the pack comes together in a brief, intense burst of communal excitement. Wolves press their bodies together, lick each other's faces, wag their tails rapidly, vocalize in a cascading mix of whines and soft barks, and low, joyful howls. The energy builds for 30 seconds or a minute, and then, as though a shared decision has been reached without a word, the pack moves off together with a focused, unified purposefulness, the excitement channeled seamlessly into motion. It is, in every meaningful sense, a team gathering before a shared endeavor, a moment of mutual acknowledgement and collective commitment that transforms a group of individuals into a single, coordinated, beautifully purposeful whole. We know this feeling too, in our own human way, the moment before something important begins, when everything aligns and the path forward is suddenly, completely, perfectly clear. The wolf carries within it an ancient knowledge of weather, an ability to read the coming of storms and cold fronts, and sudden shifts in temperature through a combination of barometric sensitivity, olfactory information, and behavioral cues from other species in the shared landscape. Before a significant snowstorm, wolves often become more active, traveling further, caching food, moving the pack to more sheltered positions within the territory. They read the sky and the wind and the behavior of the birds with a calm attentiveness that has been refined over countless generations into something very close to prescience. There is deep comfort in this, in the knowledge that the wolf has always known how to prepare for the cold, how to find shelter before the storm arrives, how to be already safe and warm and together when the snow begins to fall. Let that wisdom settle into you now, like snowflakes drifting softly down through still and quiet air, each one landing perfectly, gently, and without any sound at all. There is a particular kind of morning that belongs especially to wolves, the kind that arrives after a long, cold night, when the sky above the forest slowly fills with a pale, luminous grey that is neither dark nor light, but something softly, beautifully between. In this first grey light, the snow on the ground seems to glow from within, as though the earth itself is quietly, gradually waking. The pines stand very still, their dark branches holding small, perfect weights of snow, and the wolves who have slept curled together through the long, cold hours begin to stir slowly, unhurriedly, one by one. A stretch of extraordinary length and completeness moves through each warm body, a slow, wide yawn, a long blink of amber eyes adjusting to the new light. Then, one by one, they rise. stepping out into the soft grey morning with a fresh and quiet readiness, their breath rising in small white clouds, the day opening before them like a page, as yet unwritten, full of every possible gentle thing. The bond between wolf siblings is one of the most enduring and quietly moving relationships in the animal world. Wolves raised together in the same litter carry their shared history with them across years, a knowledge of each other that is written not just in memory, but in the body itself, in the particular ease and looseness that comes from being genuinely, completely known. Littermates play together with a specific familiar roughness, a calibrated wildness that is only possible between those who know exactly how far to go, who trust completely that the line will not be crossed. As they grow and mature, this play softens into a companionship of deep, mutual comfort, the simple, irreplaceable pleasure of moving through the world alongside someone who has known you from your very first breath, who carries in their warm body the same early memories of the den's darkness, the mother's warmth, the first pale light of the world entering newly opened eyes. The ecology of fear, a term coined by wildlife biologists to describe how the mere presence of a predator shapes the behavior of prey animals, is nowhere more beautifully illustrated than in the relationship between wolves and elk in the wild landscapes they share. Elk that live alongside wolves do not simply flee, they redistribute themselves across the landscape in response to the wolf's presence, avoiding areas of high predation risk and moving more frequently through others. This redistribution has profound and cascading effects on vegetation, on soil, on water, effects that ripple outward through the entire ecosystem with a gentle, inexorable thoroughness. The wolf does not need to catch every elk to reshape the world. Its presence alone, the simple calm fact of its being there, moving through the trees, breathing the cold air, is sufficient to set in motion changes of extraordinary beauty and scope. Existence itself, in the right place at the right time, can be enough to transform everything. A wolf's lifespan in the wild is typically between 6 and 8 years, shorter than we might wish for a creature of such depth and grace. But each of those years is lived with a fullness and a presence that makes any simple calculation of length feel somehow beside the point. 6 years of winter mornings and summer meadows. 6 years of the pack's warmth and the territory's familiar trails. 6 years of the moon rising over the same beloved ridge, of the river running cold and clear through the same beloved valley. A wolf does not waste its years in worry or distraction. It inhabits each one completely, each season, each day, each slow and breathing hour of rest in the sheltered hollow, each morning's first long stretch in the new grey light. To live like a wolf in this sense is not about wildness. It is about presence, about the extraordinary, simple art of being completely faithfully and gratefully here. 3/4 of the way through our long and gentle journey together now, and the forest around us has grown very still and very deep. The stars have moved slowly across their ancient paths overhead, wheeling with the same patient, unhurried certainty they have maintained since long before there were wolves to watch them, long before there were human eyes to trace their patterns and find in them the shapes of beloved things. The pines are breathing in the dark. Somewhere nearby, a small stream is moving over its stones with a sound like a whispered conversation, continuous, soft, and entirely without urgency. And in the warm hollow beneath the oldest pine at the forest's edge, the wolf pack sleeps, breathing together in a slow, synchronized rhythm that fills the hollow with a warmth that the cold night cannot touch. You are here, in this quiet place, breathing with them, growing heavier, growing softer, growing beautifully, completely still. The wolf's relationship with ravens extends beyond the practical into something that researchers, after decades of careful observation, have begun to describe with a word they once would have considered too generous: friendship. Individual ravens have been documented returning again and again to the same wolf pack across multiple seasons, apparently seeking out specific wolves with whom they have developed a particular preferential association. These ravens will land within inches of their chosen wolf, will share resting spots, will engage in extended bouts of gentle mutual interaction that serves no obvious survival purpose whatsoever. The wolf tolerates the raven's presence with a relaxed, easy warmth. The raven seems simply to enjoy being near the wolf. Two entirely different creatures, shaped by entirely different evolutionary histories, finding in each other something that transcends function and utility, something that, in the long and honest light of sustained observation, looks very much indeed like the simple, genuine pleasure of good company. The den that a wolf family calls home is chosen with extraordinary care, selected for its orientation, its drainage, its proximity to water and to open sight lines, its shelter from prevailing winds. A well-chosen den may be used by the same pack, or successive packs occupying the same territory, for many generations, decades of springs, decades of new litters tumbling out into the light for the first time, decades of the same hollow witnessing the same ancient, tender, continuously unfolding story of new life arriving into the world. The earth around an old wolf den becomes subtly different from the surrounding forest, softened by generations of wolf paws, enriched by the biological activity of a family that has sheltered there across many seasons, scattered with the small pale remnants of 1,000 quiet afternoons. Old dens carry, in their very soil, the accumulated warmth of every family that has ever called them home. The earth remembers what it has held. Wolf pups begin to vocalize almost from birth, small soft sounds that begin as barely audible murmurs and gradually develop, over weeks and months, into the full, rich vocal repertoire of the adult wolf. The howl itself emerges gradually, first as a high, wavering, slightly comical attempt that bears only a passing resemblance to the adult version, then growing steadily more confident and more melodically complex, as the pup's voice deepens and its understanding of when and how to howl becomes more sophisticated. There is something irresistibly endearing about the howl of a very young wolf, that small, earnest, slightly uncertain voice lifted into the big patient sky, practicing the ancient sound, learning by doing the language its ancestors have spoken for 1,000,000 years. Every expert was once a beginner. Every deep and resonant howl that moves through a winter forest tonight was once, not so long ago, a small and wavering and absolutely sincere attempt at something beautiful. The grey wolf is, at its most fundamental biological level, a creature of extraordinary sensory richness, living in a world so dense with information, so layered with meaning, so continuously and generously full of things worth attending to, that the question is never what to notice, but simply which of the 1,000 available wonders to rest upon first. A single morning walk through a familiar stretch of forest delivers to a wolf's senses more information than most humans receive in an entire day. The overnight movements of every animal that passed this way, the precise direction and strength of the coming wind, the subtle shift in temperature that speaks of weather changing somewhere beyond the visible horizon. And through all of this extraordinary richness, the wolf moves with a calm and unhurried selectivity, not overwhelmed, not anxious, but simply present, simply absorbing, simply being a living instrument of exquisite sensitivity, moving through a world that is, in every moment, completely and endlessly and overwhelmingly, beautifully alive. When two wolves who know and love each other have been separated, even for only a few hours, their reunion carries a quality of warmth and physical expressiveness that is, in its own quiet way, deeply moving to witness. They run toward each other with an abandonment of dignity that is entirely endearing. Bodies low, tails sweeping in wide, joyful arcs, whimpering softly with an urgency that speaks of genuine relief. They press their faces together, lick each other's muzzles and eyes and ears with a thoroughness that suggests they are literally relearning, through touch and scent, the beloved reality of the other's presence. Then, the greeting complete, they settle back into their comfortable companionship, walking side by side, or lying close together, or simply resting with one warm flank pressed against the other's, as though the separation has reminded them, usefully and tenderly, of exactly how much this nearness matters, and exactly how grateful they are to have it back again. Wolves have a remarkable ability to regulate their own body temperature across a wide range of environmental conditions, from the deep cold of an Arctic winter, where temperatures may fall to -40 degrees, to the warm summers of more temperate regions. Their double-layered coat functions as an extraordinarily sophisticated insulation system, adjustable across seasons as the thick winter undercoat is shed in spring and grows back in autumn. In warm weather, wolves pant to release heat, their long tongues hanging loose, moving air rapidly across the wet surfaces inside their mouths, cooling the blood that passes close to those surfaces before it returns to the body's core. In cold weather, they conserve heat with a quiet efficiency that requires no conscious effort, their bodies simply knowing, as they have always known, exactly what this moment requires, and exactly how to provide it with calm, unhurried, biological grace. The way a wolf greets the morning is one of the most gently inspiring things in the natural world. Rising from sleep with a long, complete, whole-body stretch, front legs extended forward, spine arching, toes spreading wide, tail curling upward in a long, slow, thoroughly satisfying curve, the wolf takes several moments to fully reoccupy its body before it does anything else at all. There is no urgency in this process, no immediate rushing into the demands of the day. The body is allowed to wake at its own pace, joints loosening, muscles warming, eyes adjusting from the soft dark of sleep to the pale new light of another morning. Only when this process is fully, unhurriedly complete, does the wolf step forward into the day. Let that quality of patient, gentle morning waking be the last image your mind holds tonight. That long, slow, deeply satisfying return to the body. That complete and unhurried arrival into a new and peaceful day. Wolves have been part of the human story for so long, and in so many different cultures and traditions and forms of storytelling, that they have become something more than animals in the human imagination. They have become a kind of mirror, reflecting back to us the qualities we most admire, most fear, most wish to understand in ourselves. Loyalty, intelligence, the fierce, unconditional love of family, the capacity to move through hardship without losing grace, the ability to be simultaneously strong and tender, wild and deeply social, individual and completely committed to the whole. Whatever we have sought to understand about courage, about community, about the right way to move through a difficult world, we have often found ourselves looking, eventually, at the wolf, and what looks back at us from those amber eyes, patient and clear, and entirely without judgment, is something we recognize, somewhere very deep and very quiet inside ourselves as kin. There is a quality that experienced wolf researchers describe in the animals they have watched most closely over the longest periods of time, a quality they struggle consistently to name with scientific precision, and so often end up simply calling presence, not intelligence, exactly, though intelligence is certainly there. Not personality, though that too is unmistakable, something more fundamental than either, a quality of being fully, completely, and unself-consciously here, in this moment, in this body, in this forest, without any part of the self withheld or elsewhere or anxious about what comes next. The wolf does not rehearse tomorrow or revisit yesterday. It inhabits the present moment with a thoroughness that most humans spend entire lifetimes attempting, through meditation and practice and patient, gentle effort, to approximate. And perhaps this is the deepest and most quietly generous gift the wolf offers us tonight. Not information, not wonder, but the simple, luminous example of what it looks like to be completely, faithfully, and beautifully alive right now. The rivers that run through wolf territory are not merely water sources but living corridors, highways of biological richness that connect different parts of the landscape and carry nutrients and seeds, and the subtle chemical signatures of every living thing that touches them. Wolves drink from these rivers, hunt along their margins, cross them in long bounding leaps or slow, deliberate wades depending on the season and the depth. In summer, river margins are among the most lush and biologically diverse places in the entire landscape, dense with willows and sedges and wildflowers, loud with birds, rich with the scent of wet earth and cold water and growing things. A wolf pausing at the river's edge in high summer, surrounded by all that green abundance, the water running clear and cold over pale stones, the air warm and rich with the fragrance of the season, is a creature in precisely the right place, at precisely the right time, completely and perfectly at home in the full generous beauty of the living world. The sleep of a wolf is layered and complex, cycling through stages of light and deep rest, with a rhythm that broadly mirrors our own, shaped by the same ancient biological architecture that governs mammalian sleep across species. During the deepest stages, a wolf's brain consolidates the experiences of the day, the new scents encountered, the trails walked, the social interactions navigated, weaving them into the existing fabric of knowledge and memory with a quiet, unconscious thoroughness. Dreams, where they exist, arise from this consolidation process, the brain replaying, in softened and symbolic form, the events and emotions of the waking hours. Sleep, for the wolf, as for us, is not merely rest, but renewal, the nightly, faithful restoration of everything that the day has used. Every morning the wolf rises from this process complete. Memory intact, senses fresh, body restored, ready to meet the world again with the same calm, unhurried, deeply attentive presence it brought to the day before. Among the many remarkable things that wolves have demonstrated in long-term field studies is a capacity for what researchers carefully call individual recognition across time, the ability to remember specific individuals encountered months or even years previously, and to modulate their behavior accordingly. A wolf that had a neutral or positive interaction with a neighboring pack member several seasons ago may respond differently to that individual's scent or vocalization than to that of a stranger, a subtle, persistent memory of a specific other creature carried forward through time in the warm, intricate architecture of a living brain. This capacity for long, specific, individual memory is part of what makes wolf social life so rich and so nuanced. It means that every encounter between wolves carries with it the full weight of history, the accumulated context of everything that has passed between these two specific beings before. Every meeting is, in this sense, a continuation, another gentle chapter in a long and ongoing story. 10 segments remain in our long and quiet journey through the world of the grey wolf, and the forest around us has grown very deep and very still. Your breathing, if you are following it gently with your awareness, has almost certainly grown slower and longer and more complete than it was when we first stepped beneath these dark, patient trees together. The weight of your body against the warmth beneath you has deepened, a heaviness that is not tiredness, but something more complete, more restful, more like the deep and willing surrender of a body that has decided fully and finally to let go. The wolves nearby are breathing in their slow, warm rhythm. The stars are turning their ancient, unhurried wheel overhead. The pines are holding the cold air softly between their branches, and you are here, present, safe, warm, and drifting with every slow breath, just a little further from the surface of the waking world, and a little deeper into the vast, dark, welcoming, and perfectly peaceful depths of sleep. The grey wolf has survived ice ages, continental shifts, the slow and dramatic reorganization of entire ecosystems across thousands of years of planetary change, adapting, persisting, finding its way through each successive transformation of the world it lived in with a quiet, faithful, and entirely unhurried resilience. There is something profoundly comforting in this deep continuity, in the knowledge that this creature, this particular shape of life, this specific quality of amber-eyed, silver-coated, deeply social aliveness, has moved through more changes than we can meaningfully imagine and arrived here tonight, still itself, still curious, still loyal, still lifting its voice into the cold, dark air above a forest that, however altered from the forests of its ancestors, is still home. The wolf does not merely survive difficulty, it absorbs it, adapts to it, and continues, with the same steady, unhurried grace, to be completely and faithfully what it has always been in whatever world it finds itself. On the coldest nights of deep winter, when the temperature drops to its lowest and the forest seems to contract around its own warmth, wolf packs will sometimes howl together in the pure, frozen dark for extended periods, long, overlapping, full harmonically rich choruses that rise into air so cold and still that the sound travels with extraordinary clarity, carrying for many kilometers in every direction through the silent, frozen landscape. Those who have heard a wolf chorus on such a night describe it as one of the most sublime acoustic experiences available on this earth. A sound so large and so ancient and so completely itself that it seems to fill not just the physical space of the forest, but something larger. Some interior space within the listener that does not have a name, but that recognizes in that sound something it has always known and always loved, and never quite, until this moment, been able to remember. Let that sound come to you now, soft and distant and beautiful, moving through the cold and quiet dark toward where you rest, warm and still and safe. The relationship between wolves and the landscapes they inhabit is so intimate and so long established that the two have, in a very real sense, shaped each other. The forests and river valleys of wolf country bear the quiet imprint of the wolf's presence across centuries, in the distribution of prey animals, in the patterns of vegetation along riverbanks, in the particular mix of species that characterizes a fully functional, wolf-inhabited ecosystem. And the wolf, in turn, has been shaped by its landscape, its coat colors echoing the colors of the forests and tundra and mountain slopes. It has moved through across generations, its behavior calibrated to the specific rhythms and resources of the terrain it calls home. This mutual shaping, this long, slow, completely unconscious dialogue between a creature and its place, is one of the most quietly beautiful processes in all of nature. To be shaped by a place and to shape it in return. To belong to somewhere so completely that the belonging goes both ways. There are researchers who have spent 30-40 years of their lives studying wolves in the field, rising before dawn in every season, walking hundreds of kilometers of wilderness trails, sitting for hours in cold blinds waiting for a glimpse of a silver form moving through distant trees. Ask any of them whether, after all those years and all those hours, the sight of a wolf in the wild has become ordinary, and the answer is always, without exception, no. Something about the wolf resists habituation continues, no matter how many times it has been seen, to arrive in the visual field with a quality of presence that produces in the watching human a particular mixture of stillness and aliveness, of recognition and wonder, that does not diminish with repetition, but seems, if anything, to deepen. The wolf is one of those rare things in this world that rewards sustained attention not with familiarity and diminishing returns, but with endlessly increasing richness, endlessly deepening beauty, endlessly renewed and tender awe. The moon has completed much of its slow arc across the sky above our forest now, and the night has entered that deepest, most perfect phase of stillness that comes in the small hours, the time that belongs to no part of the day, that exists in a sovereign, unhurried peace entirely its own. The wolves have been sleeping for hours, their warm bodies indistinguishable in the darkness from the soft shapes of the earth itself. Occasionally one stirs, shifts position, draws its packmates slightly closer, settles again with a long, slow exhale that disperses into the cold air like a small, vanishing cloud. The stream nearby continues its soft conversation with its stones, as it has all night, as it will until morning. The pines breathe their slow, resinous breath into the cold air, and you are here, beneath it all, sinking deeper with every quiet moment into the warm, dark, perfectly sheltered place where sleep has been patiently and faithfully waiting for you all along. The grey wolf does not fight the winter. It does not resist the cold or rail against the darkness of the long northern nights. It simply adjusts, growing its coat thicker, drawing the pack closer, moving a little more slowly through the deep snow, resting a little longer in the sheltered hollows where the wind cannot reach. Winter, for the wolf, is not an obstacle but simply another season. Another face of the world it loves, carrying its own particular beauty, its own particular gifts. The stark, clean geometry of a snow-covered forest, the extraordinary clarity of frozen air, the long, dark nights that are also on clear evenings, the most extravagantly star-filled skies of the entire year. The wolf receives all of this with the same open, unhurried equanimity it brings to the long golden days of summer, finding in each season, without effort and without complaint, exactly what that season has to offer, and finding it always to be enough. To be in its own specific and irreplaceable way, entirely and quietly beautiful. The wolf moving through deep snow leaves a trail that tells, to those who know how to read it, a complete and detailed story of the animal's passage, its pace, its weight, its direction of travel, the moments where it paused to investigate a scent or adjust its course in response to something detected on the wind. But what strikes those who follow such trails most deeply is not the information they contain, but the quality of intention they express. The clean, direct, purposeful line of a creature that knows where it is going and moves toward it without deviation or unnecessary complexity. There is a lesson here that arrives softly, without insistence, simply by being noticed. Move toward what matters, rest when rest is needed, pause to attend to what the world is offering. And between these things, simply walk, steadily, quietly, and with a trust in your own direction so complete and so deeply rooted that it requires no conscious maintenance, no anxious reassurance, no map beyond the one you already carry warm and sure within. The howl that rises from a lone wolf on a winter night. That single, long, searching note, lifting into the cold and starlit dark, is perhaps the most emotionally resonant sound in the entire natural world. It speaks simultaneously of distance and of longing, of strength and of vulnerability. of the enormous beauty and the occasional honest difficulty of being a living creature moving through a vast and sometimes very quiet world. Yet even in its solitude, the lone wolf's howl carries within it an implicit faith, a trust that somewhere out in the dark, a familiar voice will eventually answer, that the distance is temporary, that the pack is real and warm and findable, that the night, however long and cold and still, will not last forever. There is something in that faith, in the act of lifting your voice into the dark, not because you can see the answer coming, but simply because you trust that it will. That is among the most quietly courageous things in all the world. We have walked a long way together through this forest tonight. 100 truths about the grey wolf, gathered one by one like smooth stones from a cold, clear river, turned over in the quiet light of this slow and gentle evening, and set down in a line that has carried us, almost without our noticing, from the first soft moment of settling into the deep, bald, warm, extraordinary still place where we find ourselves now. Your body is very heavy. Your breathing is very slow and very complete. The space behind your eyes is dark and warm and entirely at rest. The forest around us is at its most beautiful and its most quiet. That perfect pre-dawn stillness where even the trees seem to have drawn a long breath and held it, suspended in a moment of such complete and luminous peace that time itself seems to have softened, to have lost its usual insistence, to have become something more like water than like anything solid, flowing, gentle, and entirely without edges, carrying you forward with no effort at all. And so we come, gently and unhurriedly, to the 100th and final truth of our long evening together, which is perhaps the simplest and the most beautiful of all. The grey wolf exists, right now tonight, as you lie warm and still and breathing in the soft dark of your room. There are wolves moving through forests on the other side of the world, padding through deep snow, lifting their faces to cold, starlit air, pressing their warm flanks together in sheltered hollows, bold breathing in slow and synchronized rhythms that have not changed in a million years. They are alive. They are real. They are, in their own quiet, extraordinary, deeply faithful way, one of the most beautiful expressions of what it means to be a living creature on this ancient, patient, endlessly generous earth. Let that truth be the last thing your waking mind holds tonight, that somewhere right now a wolf is breathing, and somewhere right now so are you. Both of you warm, both of you real, both of you simply and completely alive. And so the forest holds us still, in this last deep quietness before the script of the night gives way to the wordless hours of pure, uninterrupted sleep. There is one final constellation of gentle truths to carry with you as you go. The grey wolf, for all its wildness and all its ancient power, spends the majority of its life doing the same quiet things that fill and sustain every life lived well, resting, eating, playing, caring for its young, and moving through its beloved landscape in the warm and faithful company of those it loves. Studies suggest that wolves spend up to 12 hours of every day simply resting, lying in soft hollows, soaking up whatever warmth the season offers, breathing slowly in the company of their pack, not preparing for something, not recovering from something, simply resting. Because rest is not a luxury or an indulgence, but a fundamental, irreplaceable part of a life lived in balance with the world. The wolf teaches us, without words and without effort, that to slow down is not to fall behind, that to rest is not to waste the day, that to lie still in the warm dark beside those you love, breathing slowly and without agenda, is not a small or unimportant thing. It is, in fact, one of the most essential and most beautiful things that any living creature can do. Across every culture that has ever lived alongside wolves, across every tradition that has ever looked to them for meaning or wisdom or simple, honest example, the message that comes back is remarkably consistent. The wolf shows us how to be strong without cruelty, how to be social without losing the individual, how to be wild without being lost, and how to love fiercely, faithfully, and with a completeness that does not diminish across years or distance or difficulty. These are not small lessons. They are among the largest and most important that the living world has to offer, and tonight, the wolf has offered them to you, quietly, generously, and without any expectation of return, simply because you were here and you were listening, and the night was long and beautiful and full of gentle silver light. And now, dear friend, we have arrived at the very end of our long and gentle journey together, and what a journey it has been. We walked into a forest at the beginning of this evening, when the night was still young, and the weight of the day was still present in your shoulders, in your chest, in the restless searching activity of your waking mind. And we have walked through it slowly, together, fact by soft fact, image by quiet image, until the forest has become familiar and beloved, until the dark between the pines feels not frightening but sheltering, not empty, but full of a warm and breathing life that has kept quiet company with us through all these gentle hours. Somewhere in this forest tonight, a wolf is sleeping. Its chest rises and falls in the slow, deep rhythm of a body completely at rest, unhurried, unguarded, entirely trusting of the earth beneath it and the dark above it and the warm, familiar presences breathing softly all around it. Its dreams, if it dreams, are full of cold, clear water and pine-scented air, and the long, clean sensation of moving through a beloved landscape with perfect, effortless ease. You have earned that same rest tonight. You have been present and attentive and open throughout this long and quiet evening, and your body and your mind have been moving, with every slow breath and every soft image, steadily and faithfully toward this moment, this final, complete surrender to the deep and welcoming dark of sleep. There is nothing left to do tonight, nothing left to think or plan or remember or carry. The world will be exactly where you left it when morning comes, patient and unchanged and full of whatever tomorrow holds. For now, there is only this: the forest breathing, the wolves sleeping, the stars turning their slow and ancient wheel above the quiet pines, and you, warm and still and safe, drifting down into the deep, soft, endlessly welcoming dark. Sleep now. Good night, and sleep deeply.